an extravagant engagement party. Crystal lights shimmered. My sister, Camille, drifted past me, smiling, not in welcome, but as if hoping I'd disappear. Then her fiancé looked at me, stunned, and said, "You're the judge." I am Clarice Dalton, 38 years old, the youngest judge in the district, standing behind the courtroom bench where lies dissolve. I'm no stranger to severity, but nothing cuts deeper than blades from your own family, wrapped in silk and smiles. Camille, my younger sister, was always the star. Curly hair, charm, and endlessly doted on by our parents. She knows how to work a room, they'd say, as she sweet-talked her way out of trouble. I, in contrast, was the shadow, serious, quiet, too intense. I read in corners, corrected teachers' mistakes, and was labeled strange. Camille threw parties I wasn't invited to, joked I was the adopted kid from the library. At dinner, she mocked my clothes. Our parents laughed along. Clarice doesn't know how to loosen up. Dad never looked up from his plate. Mom never asked what I wanted. I learned to fade, into law books, into silent clarity, dissecting arguments without raising my voice. While Camille chased college love and dropped out of a communications degree, I graduated early and got into law school. When the acceptance letter came, Camille sneered, "So you're aiming to be some spinster in a courtroom? No life?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I moved away, worked under a federal judge, prosecuted white-collar crime. At 38, I became a superior court judge. The paper ran my photo, robe in hand, standing before the bench. I sent a copy to my parents. No one called. The silence no longer hurt. I had my courtroom, my title, my voice sharp enough to cut through lies. Camille and I rarely crossed paths. Weddings, birthdays, Mother's Day, where we were forced to pretend. She sparkled in sequin dresses, sharing tales of her exhausting social life. I sat at the end of the table, watching the performance, wondering how someone so loud could say so little. A year passed with no contact. Then a letter arrived, white envelope, rose gold trim, heavily perfumed. Camille Dalton and Jonathan Pierce are engaged. No greeting, no message, no +1. A follow-up text. Don't worry if you're busy. Jonathan's family is super high profile. Nothing too formal, okay? Too formal. That's stuck. She didn't know me at all. The woman who made CEOs in $1,000 suits call me Your Honor in a trembling voice. I bought a black dress. Elegant. Booked my flight, rented a car, declined the hotel she suggested. I walked into the party not to shrink, not to stay silent. The mansion sat atop a hill, trimmed hedges, luxury cars parked in rows. Camille's name was etched in gold on the welcome board. Jonathan's, noticeably smaller, telling. I arrived 5 minutes early. Watched from my car. Guests hugged, laughed, adjusted their designer suits and dresses still creased from plastic garment bags. Camille had always dreamed of upper-class aesthetics, even if her bank account didn't match. She probably told Jonathan's family she was a social darling, her sister too uptight to matter. I entered without a word. No scene. The hostess handed me champagne. "Welcome," she said politely. She had no idea who I was. Good. The party sparkled. Polished shoes. Practiced smiles orbiting Camille like she was the sun. She was beautiful, I admitted, but beauty doesn't equate to character. Our parents stood at a distance. Dad's hair now gray, expression still as passive as ever. Mom beamed in a dress too young for her age, wearing a necklace I had gifted her, never thanked for. She saw me, paused, smiled as if greeting a vague acquaintance, then turned away. No words. I sat behind a large floral arrangement, invisible, just the way they liked it. Camille spotted me, switched to hostess mode, air kiss, soft hands, fake smile. "You made it," she said sweetly. "Not sure this is your kind of scene." "I had time," I replied, smiling faintly. She glanced at my dress. Black, very on brand for an engagement party. "I wanted to balance the palette," I said. She blinked, unsure if it was sarcasm, then leaned in and whispered, "Don't make this awkward. Jonathan's family cares about image. They ask a lot." "They'll get honest answers," I said. She laughed loudly, for show, and drifted away, continuing her performance. I sipped champagne quietly. Too intense echoed in my mind, a lifelong label. I wasn't too much, I simply wanted enough. Jonathan approached, tall, polished, the type who rehearses emotions like speeches. "Clarice, Camille's sister," he asked. I nodded. "That's right." She doesn't talk much about you, he said, smiling in that detached politician way. Are you too close? Sisters, I answered, tilting my head. He chuckled awkwardly. Didn't know what else to say. Camille said you're in-law? Close enough, I replied, holding his gaze. He didn't ask further. Camille must have painted me as a clerk or assistant. Anything but the truth. I let him believe the fiction. The truth, like a verdict, was just waiting for its moment. Dinner passed, leading into speeches. Camille's friends stood, pouring out sweet toasts, full of memories and flattery. Laughter landed on cue, wine glasses raised, cameras flashing. Camille basked in attention, like light she was born to absorb. I sat at the far end of the hall, half hidden behind a vase of white flowers, not here to stand out. I was a fixture, passed over, the woman in black at a party of couples and soft pastels. Camille introduced every guest, exaggerating the relationships, but no one asked about me. I heard Jonathan tell someone, Camille has a sister, but they're not close. I didn't move. Same story. I'm distant, cold, too serious. Then Camille stood, tapped her glass, chandelier light dancing off her dress. Thank you all for coming, she said, glowing. I'm so lucky. The crowd smiled, phones raised, ready to record. I wasn't always perfect, she said, giggling. As a kid, I was the wild one. Clarice, my sister, was the opposite, strict by the book. She paused, pretending humility, then added, she once reported me for borrowing her sweater without asking. I was 13. Laughter erupted. I stayed still, expressionless. She's always been that way, Camille said, waving at me. Rigid, judgmental. Thanks for coming, even though you don't like family parties, or smiling. She looked at me pointedly and winked. Jonathan touched her hand, laughing. Don't be mean. Then he turned to me, like I was part of some harmless joke. But really, thanks for making the time. Camille said you do? What was it? County records? I tilted my head, didn't answer. Or office admin? He added, smiling lightly. A soft insult, not cruel, but reductive. Like an eraser rubbing me into something forgettable. Camille smiled, satisfied, expecting me to swallow it like always. I wiped the rim of my glass, looked at Jonathan. I'm afraid that's not accurate. He blinked. Camille said you work for the government, some office thing. I let the silence stretch, let the pressure rise. No, I said, I'm a judge. The room fell silent, like the air had been sucked out. A voice from the next table. Judge Dalton? Heads turned. Someone whispered, the one from the Eastman case, it was national news. Phones appeared, quick searches under napkins. Jonathan looked at me like a painting revealing a hidden layer. You're a judge? He asked, no longer smiling. Superior Court, District 11, I replied, nodding gently. Camille muttered, I didn't know you still worked. I thought you'd stopped. I rose slowly, folded my napkin, placed it beside the plate, every movement heavy as a verdict. I looked at Jonathan. When no one asks, don't be surprised by the answer. Camille's mouth hung open. Our parents froze, my mother tight-lipped, my father pale. I walked past through the stunned faces and whispered words. No theatrics, just the weight of truth. I didn't stay for dessert. There was nothing more to say. Outside, the night was cool, clean. The gravel underfoot felt like freedom. My phone buzzed. Mom calling, Camille texting. Why did you embarrass me? As if truth were a weapon, as if speaking plainly was an attack. I didn't reply. They hadn't asked who I was in years. They assumed, shrunk me into a version that made them feel bigger. I'm not angry anymore. Once I craved recognition, longed to be invited into their pride, but somewhere along the way, I stopped needing it. I built my life. No shortcuts, no applause, no family name to lean on. Just the work. Quiet, steady, unglamorous. Work that holds weight in rooms they've never stepped into. I imagine the party continues. Camille retelling the moment, Jonathan realizing confidence has its limits. My parents sit in silence, unsure what to do with a daughter they never understood. But I don't need them to understand. They didn't see me because I was invisible, but because they never looked. Now they have to. Truth changes the air, not because I demanded it, but because it always does. I don't need the spotlight, don't want the center, just the seat behind the bench where truth has a voice. Silence isn't weakness, it's strength, waiting for the right moment to speak. Have you ever been misunderstood, erased? Let your truth speak, not in words, but in how you live. What will you choose?